This is a Play Your Way network presentation. Get the full story at PlayLifeYourWay.com. In a world where comics, movies, games, rumors, and Kardashians come at you 24/7, three champions will rise to defend you from wasting precious time, money, and emojis. BK, Nate, and Derreck will show you how to do it the player way.
Ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, this is your regular scheduled podcast DJ, the resident podcast DJ, BK, helping you understand how to curate your media
the player way.
And I never do this thing alone. I'm here with my gauntlet, the guys who help me protect the planet from devastation, to unite our hearts within our nation, to denounce the evils of truth and love, to extend our reach to the stars above. Derreck!
That's me!
Nate!
Wakanda forever.
Player Way Podcast, blast off to the speed of light, surrender now, or prepare to fight.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly right, guys. And we are back. We have high energy right now. And as Nate alluded to, Wakanda forever, hashtag Wakanda forever, because they killed it at the theater this weekend. I don't know if you guys have the final updated numbers. Normally we record this on a Monday evening, but we actually pushed it out to Tuesday because we wanted to have a little bit more time to really understand what was going to be happening. And the final reported numbers are around just over 200 million. So 201 million is what I last saw at. Is that comport with what you guys saw as well?
Yeah, I got 202. I mean, if you give it the 4-day, they're pushing closer to 240, but they have weekend actuals at 202. So, but that's still incredible. Just
domestic.
In February, in a February movie. Like January and February never got a good movie.
Yeah. And Nate, I know you're a big international dude when it comes to tallying. What was crazy is I found out about this because there was competing films in China and in some of those markets in Asia. This film has not yet been opened there. It won't open until this coming weekend. So that's the reason why when you look at like 200 mil domestic and then I think it's only 415 mil worldwide. Is that right?
Yeah, but that's still, it's made its budget back plus probably what they spent on marketing costs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But normally in terms of like the exponential growth as far as when you include those numbers, the inflation, it's usually a lot bigger. Like you would expect it to be somewhere around 500 or 600 mil based on how it did domestically here. But just imagine the drop-off is normally something else that Nate talks about a lot is the drop-off percentages. And we talk about that here on the Playway Podcast a lot because we want to help you curate your box office understanding.
The player way.
And so what usually happens is there's like a 15 to 20% drop-off. Like, I would say not daily, but
usually like, daily?
Yeah, it's like 5 to 10%, maybe even 15% daily. But it almost grew from like Friday to Saturday. Like I'm almost for certain it did, because the Friday numbers included the Thursday night fan events, which Derreck went to the fan event in Dallas, Texas. Tell us a little bit more about those fan events in case somebody didn't listen to the deep dive last week.
No problem. The fan events are usually something generated along with a fairly large release. I've gone to Ragnarok, I went to Star Wars, and most recent being Black Panther. Thanks to Rick for hooking me up on all three of those. Shout out to Rick Moore. He's doing his friendship.
The player way.
Indeed.
You got a free poster, another free coin, very similar to what you and I have mentioned with what we got in New York at the Power Ranger coin.
I'm so mad that I didn't get that coin.
You didn't get that coin?
No, I'll tell you about my experience. I never even actually told you what happened to me that night.
I can't wait to hear it. We'll hear it on here shortly. But I have a Black Panther commemorative coin. Got a poster on the way. Actually, they had it to where you could go through the website and they actually just mail it to you instead of you actually having to carry a poster with you, and that can always have some wear and tear there. So that's something that I should have later this week. But it was a great turnout. You got to see some of the behind the scenes before the movie, a message from Chadwick as well, and then after the credits, another little humorous message, but more so you got to see, I did post this on my @CorruptingTheSystem IG page, a little bit of the Ryan Coogler, him actually talking about his upbringing in Oakland, how he was in film school when Iron Man came out. This guy was in film school and ends up directing arguably the biggest opening Marvel movie. That's an incredible story in and of itself, before I get down that rabbit hole. But just hearing him talk about it, and it just really enriched that fan experience. So if you ever get a chance to see a large opening movie with a fan experience, I highly recommend it. It is worth it.
That's awesome, Derek. Thank you for that rundown. And one of the things he mentioned in his rundown, just real quick, of the fan event, is he talked about how there it was, that this is arguably the largest opening. The reason why I keep hitting over the head about the 3-day as opposed to the 4-day is because in order to really be considered to be one of the top tier, you got to beat those 3-day numbers. And the 3-day numbers in particular is around 204 million for the originals Avenger film. If I am correct, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this beats every solo film, every Marvel solo film to date opening, and it's only second to the Avengers, the original Avengers film.
Let's
I
see.
believe you're correct.
That's awesome. Yeah, the Avengers originally was 207. So this is, you're right, second only to
that is insane. That is insane.
That is
when
nuts.
you think about that, when you think about the ability that gives Chadwick Boseman, the ability that it gives to Ryan Coogler, it's kind of crazy. I mean, and just to put in perspective what's coming up next with Ryan Coogler, everyone was expecting, because they've announced Creed 2, and there's even been some sort of supposed teaser poster that came out. I don't think it's real. I think it's a fan poster because it doesn't look very professional. But Ryan Coogler's not going to be directing Creed 2.
Say what?
That's definitely going to affect their wallet.
Definitely.
What's going on is apparently he's going to be filming something else, and they couldn't get the schedule to work out. The studio needs Creed to be out at that window. I think we had talked about Creed 2 is supposed to be coming out at either the end of 2008 or early 2009 or something like that.
Man, I can't
it's supposed to be coming out really soon.
To do that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be coming real soon. He starts filming, I believe, in April.
Okay.
So the student, not the student, I was thinking about what you said. The guy who's going to be filming Creed 2, it's going to be his first major film. He's only been doing indie stuff up until now. He's another African-American guy. I can't remember his name.
The director?
I did see some
or did you
interviews
say
about
Phil,
that. The director.
Stephen Capel or Capel Jr.?
That's right, Stephen Capel. That's right.
And,
That's right. Thank
they
you,
have
man.
a tentative, no problem, a tentative 21st of November release, so they're shooting around Thanksgiving, sounds like.
Of this year.
Correct. That's what they say.
See, they're trying to ride off they don't want to push this film. Everyone was speculating, including us, that they were going to have to push this film. They're trying to ride off the fact that Michael B. Jordan is riding high right now. And if they come out Thanksgiving, this being his next film right after his next major feature right after Black Panther, they're guaranteed to get that cash.
Man.
So, yeah. So it kind of puts you in a weird mood because I really wanted to see Ryan Coogler, but at the same time, the original Star Wars trilogy, I won't say this one, the original Star Wars trilogy was made better by having a different director coming in on the second time. So, but even with that same dichotomy we're talking about, in my opinion, I felt differently about The Last Jedi right after I saw it, but after I was kind of sat with it, I'm still not big on what they did with Kylo Ren in particular. Kylo Ren is the one that I'm not a fan of. of what they did with him. I feel like they could have really built him up to be a big bad later on. And we're going to talk about big bad villains toward the end of this episode. But let's just go down the line and talk about, this is the first time we've had Nate. Derreck has now seen Black Panther twice now. I've wrote an editorial and done a lot of deep dive on some information since the film came out. And I think we all have a better appreciation for the film since I personally love the film more and the idea of the film more now that I've seen it, which is rare these days. So let's start with Nate because Nate wasn't on the deep dive with us.
Sure. My thoughts on Black Panther?
Yeah, man.
I mean, other than main point is I really loved it. It was a fantastic movie, and obviously the box office shows and the fan response. Overall, I've, like usual with these movies, I got like a list of high points that, you know.
Let's do it. Yeah. Go on down the line, bro.
All right, this is in no particular order to how
in
it
regular
happens.
Nate's fashion.
Yeah, this isn't like how it happens in the plot. It's just how my mind. The highest point of the movie for me was when Killmonger drank the heart-shaped herb and he went into his ancestral plane, and it was, you know, that kind of dingy apartment. He sees his dad. His dad looks very lonely. That was. It's an emotional scene, and that, to me, that was kind of the highest part of the movie. To me, it's, you know, when T'Challa goes into his ancestral plane, he's surrounded in this sort of vast.
He's in The Lion King.
Yeah, exactly, and his relatives are all there. Panthers, you know, everybody looks happy. A lot of high fives are going on around there. You know?
Dude, I halfway expected. I saw this bro, it looked just like Lion King. I was waiting for the Lion King memes to come out.
That's a great point, though. Like,
and
honestly,
unfortunately, Killmonger's ancestral plane is where the sun does the land where the sun doesn't shine. You know, it's the fucking pit where the hyenas fucking hang out.
It gives you gives you. Excuse me. It gives you a good. What I love about it is it adds this. You know, Marvel, when it came to the first round of films, they didn't really go toward the mystic and the magical at all. And now that they've gone into Stephen Strange's story, they're now a lot more okay. They've done the Guardians of the Galaxy. They've done Ragnarok, which, as weird as Ragnarok is, as I said on the deep dive, and Nate, you can speak to this, I mean, there's not really much else you can do with a Thor comic adaptation because Thor comics classically are more like Thor Ragnarok than any other Thor film they've had thus far. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very fantastical, very cartoony.
Yeah, different worlds.
Yeah, I mean, even the Bifrost. The Bifrost in the comics is literally a rainbow, like on the Lucky Charms box. Mm-hmm. You know, so I didn't mind them going in that direction as much, even though it didn't make the best film experience. And what I love about these films, not to go down the rabbit hole like as Derreck would say, but it kind of puts you in a place where you're going to be in this place where you're either a Thor comic fan or you're a Captain America comic fan, and you're going to gravitate toward a certain film franchise as opposed to another one, which is just like comic books. Like certain comics you just didn't like reading. So you're like, I'm really not a fan of the Iron Man films at all, but I really love Thor. Or, you know what I'm saying? So there's a bit of an appreciation for sticking to the source material. But what I love about the juxtaposition of one person's heaven is in this one place, and then another person's, you could even say asterisk hell, maybe, is still being in this place where he could never fix. And so it makes you wonder. You think that they're going to some mystical, magical place after going there with T'Challa, but after seeing where Killmonger goes, you realize it's more of a peyote, like drug thing, and it's more of a trip than it is a real mystical, magical place. And so it's kind of left up to the viewer to decide: are they really talking to dead people, or are they just kind of in their head meditating?
I feel that they're. Sorry, go ahead, Nate.
No, well, to me, that's like Killmonger was a great villain because of that scene to me. Everything that happened before that, you know, it's kind of your run-of-the-mill bad guy. Yeah, he shoots his girlfriend to get to Claw, you know, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But that made you understand, like, what this dude's been feeling. You know, he's holding that little idea in his head for, you know, his whole life. That kind of established to me, it's like, okay, now I get this villain. And it, you know, it was greater because of it.
I totally agree with that. And just to your both of your points, my thought process when I first saw it was that T'Challa was, in essence, because they specifically said to the astral plane. Now, an astral plane is a metaphysical place in which allegedly you can travel in a dream state. Now, it's still open to interpretation whether this physical place, so to speak, actually exists, or is it still a plane in your mind? And that's just open for debate. I'm not here to discuss that aspect of it, because I feel that they did it beautifully, because it makes sense, because T'Chaka had explained to T'Challa, I prepared you every day of your life to be king and to be without me, because for you to be king, I have to not be here or not be around or something like that. So his base stats, so to speak, are an African plain, an African savanna, Black Panthers, his ancestry, like this grandiose picture and imagery that was illustrated, all the way down to the polar opposite of Killmonger still having the apartment, the terrible apartment in Oakland in the projects where he would play ball, where his father was murdered, where he would try to find his ancestry, but that room is his ancestry. That room was his ancestry, and if you jump forward to even when he was like, I have some sort of pipe dream about visiting Africa, he didn't even have the mentality of what that would even look like, because that even showed it. And that's just a beautiful point to show how different these two characters are, yet also how similar these two characters are.
And what I love about that as well, Derek, is it goes toward, when you talk about the metaphysical plane, a point in the direction of it being an actual metaphysical plane where these spirits are still kind of existing. Mm-hmm. The place that he visits his dad at is where he was in exile.
Exactly.
So even in death, his father is still in exile, which is why his father is super sad. And he's almost not sure if his son is seeing him because he's dead, or if he's still alive, or if he's king, or what. So he's kind of looking at him like, you know, why are you here, kind of thing. So I love that idea, and I agree with Nate that having him go down a similar path as the lead character puts him in a different class of villain, a different class of criminal. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go down your list a little bit more, Nate.
My second highest point was the casino. Obviously in Korea for tax breaks, because there's really no other reason.
Shout out to BK and Nate for them coming in y'all's like.
First of all, that lady at the fish market was obviously not Korean, because her Korean was terrible.
Yeah,
it's like you couldn't even get a Korean. Come on.
Exactly.
But anyways, I really loved how that to me, action wise, was the best part of the movie. Action-wise.
I love the 007 aspect of it, dude.
You know,
it felt like a 007 film.
Yeah, and I love that it also, you know, it highlighted... This film as a whole really highlights the supporting cast as well as Black Panther. You would almost argue that Chadwick Boseman gets a little overshadowed by everybody else. Not that he does a bad job at all.
By his sister.
But everybody else does such a fantastic job. Like Michonne... And I apologize, I don't know her real name, so I'll call her Michonne.
Fine. I'm cool with that. It's better than me calling her the lieutenant lady.
I love how that, like, long, you know, the fight opens up with her, you know, and it's...
Bro, she did...
It establishes...
she does such a great job.
And it really shows, like... Takes the wig and throws it in the dude's face. Oh,
bro! And the baton through the car, through the windshield,
boom,
and it makes the car
like a
boom,
boss,
dude.
Like
bro,
I even broke down. I'm like,
that
like means she threw it far enough and accurate enough to go through the car, stick into the concrete, strong enough, deep enough, and powerful enough to shut it down. And it like.
Well, We can blame it on vibranium physics.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, vibranium can do anything,
Yeah.
which I love about that. Which I personally love about that.
Civil War, that thing doesn't obey the law of physics. Nope, it doesn't, because it's not.
Yeah.
It's sure not.
It's explained with that one line right there. That's all you need to know.
It is absolutely
Nothing else.
Yeah.
Michonne, and to go to your character because I don't want to skip this point. You said to the point where almost overshadowing Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, and a lot of people are giving the T'Challa character a lot of flack, and I think what they're missing is that T'Challa, his struggle is he doesn't know how to be a king. He doesn't feel kingly. He's thrust in this position in his mind before his time. Mm-hmm. He thought in his mind he would have a whole lot more time. So he really has to, the females, and I love this because it's female empowerment. What makes him kingly isn't him, it's the ladies that are around him. Mm-hmm. They
exactly
are more
what his father told him.
Is.
Exactly what his father. You have to surround yourself with people you trust, and it's apparent through the whole movie.
Yeah,
like how much that
and
is
it's
needed.
also apparent. And it's also apparent that while T'Challa was king, this strong female influence in there. Because if you go back and watch All the Stars, Kendrick Lamar's All the Stars, I strongly encourage you to watch that music video, because that music video tells you the whole story, and it tells you the story from, in my opinion, Killmonger's perspective when you watch it. But you see all of the females in that video are giants compared to Kendrick Lamar, who is not. And he's obviously one of the Black Panther characters, because there's a moment in there where he's literally in a all black leather suit and he's running amongst the Panther. So he's clearly one of those guys. He also has a gold do-rag to kind of symbolize being king. But what I love about that music video and this film is the females are the real stars in this culture. And that is actually African culture. If you know anything about African culture, females are considered, they are the last, I won't say the last, but one of the last civilizations who still follow that whole idea of being hunter-gatherers. In those types of cultures, classically, females by nature were the stronger characters. And if you look at nature themselves, females tend to be the stronger of the two species,
almost everywhere,
gender-wise,
except mammals and primates.
even in some mammal situations, if you look at lions, the ones that do all the hunting are the females of the pride.
Of course,
So I love that it really causes you to, if you question why things are the way they are culturally wise, it causes you to have to look into it, and if you look into it, it makes perfect sense. So, yeah, Nate, just keep leading the conversation, dude, because you're doing an amazing job with these points, bro.
This is kind of, I don't want to touch on it too much, but Martin Freeman, I feel like can be the next Agent Coulson. One of the coolest things about Phase 1 of Marvel to me was to have Coulson, just pop up here and there, bring some connection to the movies. I think he can easily do that from here on out.
I had that feeling the whole movie that he was, in essence, the same
Coulson,
character.
right? Essentially, yeah.
And he's a stronger actor than the guy that played Coulson as well. So there's nuances to his character. He does a really good job of. Coulson had this. When he didn't like something, it was real obvious. And this guy, Martin Freeman, does a really good job. That character, and forgive me for not knowing that character's name, but he has a tendency. You don't know what he's thinking.
Everett Ross.
He seems to. Yeah, Everett Ross is right. He seems to be very much being an observer of the situation, and he's more or less like he knows he has to be on the right side of these people in this case in order to get out of the situation. But at any time, you can expect him to turn heel, and so. I like that about that character. He doesn't seem to be. Coulson seemed to be overly invested in, and I would say this about. I would say about any characters that he comes into contact with. That actor, the way he emotes, he seems to be on the side of the person he's with in the room at that time. But Martin Freeman's Ross character, Everett Ross, you get this sense that he likes T'Challa. and he kind of appreciates him, but he's not going to be a bitch up behind him. Like, he's like, but I'm not going to take shit off of you. This is my caller. I'm taking him in, and you're going to let me talk to this guy. And he does it in a nice way because he knows how to get the job done.
Yeah.
More flies with honey kind of thing.
I like that he wasn't like a stereotypical CIA guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was even like to see him actually taken aback when Claw informed him. He's like, you think that was it? No, they're sitting on a mountain and they haven't even scratched the surface. Seeing him actually being like, we actually had no idea about this, but shut up and listen, instead of like, he's like, you know what, let's check my resources. That's just not like an average CIA operative that you just don't see that.
And by the way, this is a spoiler cast, so we are spoiling, because the next thing I'm going to say is spoiling it. To Derreck's point, you got the sense when he was walking out of that room that he was going to walk in there with T'Challa and say, like, what, WTF, dude? Like,
where
why
is
are
it?
you even keeping this from
Really?
me?
You just
and
sit me
I
in
will
there?
I'm going to take you in and question you if you don't tell me. Had not
he got shot,
Killmonger come in and broke that up, had that not happened, it would have been over for our characters. So I love that they had to make the film work around the characters as opposed to making the characters work around the plot. And that's something we don't see very often.
We really
had
don't.
he not been shot and had to be taken there, not only would we not know about the world at large, because he was going to tell the world. Like, they didn't have a choice. Like, when he goes back to his country,
he was going to have to report everything.
And he even says it. Yeah. So,
Nakia and Okoye were on it. They're like, what's going to happen. Like, he's a CIA. Like, we can't bring him back. What are you thinking? Like, it's all legit. And it even helps you out purposefully, BK, because I know you hate happenstance. It wasn't happenstance that he got shot. It made sense for him to get shot because they busted up in there just spraying. And someone would have got shot in real life in that room because there was a lot of people.
And not only that, but Killmonger needed that guy to be out of the way, because in order for his plan to work, he needed everybody to get back.
Yep.
So it just all comes down to, like, it shows Killmonger.
Great writing.
In my opinion, that jailbreak scene reminded me a lot of the jailbreak scene in The Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight. Now, it was not nearly as holy crap, the cogs are turning, but you still understood, like, when he stole that mask, he stole it because he needed something to cover his face when he broke him out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
He needed to look like somebody from Wakanda, and he needed to look like he was from the right tribe, so that when they looked at him, they had no idea who he was. They were like, it could have been somebody from our own government, our own Wakandan government, because we don't know. Like, it was like real legit reasons why they wouldn't know who he was, even though you could put 2 plus 2.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so well put together.
And speaking of well put together, Nate, you are killing it on this episode, ladies and gentlemen.
That actually leads into my next point, which, in terms of a well put together movie, I love that this started in Oakland in 1992, which historically has nothing to do with Black Panther at all. In fact, to me, that says Ryan Coogler said, I understand this is a popular character, this is a comic book movie, but fuck it, this is my movie,
Yes.
And it's my story.
Well,
I wrote this motherfucker.
He sure did.
And
but
I'm
not just that.
But
not just that, though. But not just that. Yes, that is a good point. I'll give you that one. But he also was like, in order to make Killmonger mean something, we have to give him a story that is even more captivating than the one that we've already known about T'Challa, which is the key to making a great villain. That's the reason why when you watch The Dark Knight on replay, you kind of want to fast forward through everything else except for the Joker parts and the stuff about the Joker, because the whole idea is, I gotta find this man. He even says it. He even says, Lucius, I gotta find this man, and I will do anything to find this guy. Like, so the whole film, as a detective, he's trying to find out who the Joker is, and he never finds out who he is. No, even stopping him, he still doesn't find out, but he never stops that mission of trying to find out, and there's all of these clues as to who he could have been. It's the same thing when it comes to Killmonger, is it starts off the film with this scene, and you're like, okay, this scene has to do with someone. And if you're used to it, you kind of already knew who it was. Now, there were a lot of people in my viewing who don't usually watch this kind of film. So I heard a lot of gasps when they realized Killmonger was one of the little boys downstairs. Now, that was obvious to me. I don't know about you guys.
It was,
well, I was, sorry again. I was just kind of more speaking, you know, Ryan Coogler's from Oakland, so that's what I meant in terms of like making it a personal movie to him. Yeah.
Killmonger speaks like how Ryan Coogler actually speaks. That was awesome to me.
Yes, he
like,
does.
That is how Ryan Coogler speaks. Like, he has no qualms about how he's tremendously educated, but he has no problem being like how he speaks from the streets of Oakland.
He is from the Bay.
And he is from the Bay. And Killmonger speaks just like Ryan Coogler. And I'm sure. I mean, these guys are close guys in real life. These guys are good friends. I mean, they've done 3 movies together, so they know each other very, very well. So you could just really see that chemistry and how Coogler like influenced exactly how Killmonger was bringing that black African American element to the screen, and all those things that we've thought that we don't say, that are elephants in the room. How he's like, "Nah, this is the motherland, though, right?" You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not calling this shit. I'm calling a spade, and I ain't no spade. You gonna be a spade, and it's just It was just so gritty and natural, and it's just a perfect influence. It wasn't a forced injection of I'm the director of this movie, hear me roar, like you saw in Justice League, just with the recuts, just those type of it's my direction now, I'm going this way. Well, Coogler's direction made sense with every aspect of this film.
Absolutely. I agree with everything you just said, man. And if you don't think, again, if you haven't read my editorial on the Play Your Way Network, you can
incredible
find it at
article.
PlayLifeYourWay.com.
Incredible article.
It
well
is
done.
titled "Why Killmonger is the Most Important Comic Movie Villain Since Ledger's Joker." And what I mean by that, I'm not saying, I chose my words very carefully. I'm not saying that he was just as good, but I'm saying he's just as important. Yeah, because the Joker said something about society that you can't ignore, and it kind of started a conversation afterward where what made the Joker so diabolical and scary is his ideas pervaded and persisted beyond his reign as the reigning king of crime in Gotham. His ideas lasted until Bane even showed up. And those things came back again, and the punchline of Harvey Dent didn't even hit until the next film. And you could just hear the Joker laughing in the background. Like, you could see all of this happen was the Joker's punchline. Like, this is what happens when you corrupt the White Knight. It destroys the city. So the reign of the Joker lasts all the way until the next film, which is why there wasn't a lot of heavy lifting to be done by the League of Shadows. So in this film, when you see Killmonger, the stuff he talks about, he goes right at the throat of his own kingdom, saying, "You guys have had this kind of technology for centuries. You could have prevented slavery.
Y'all sitting pretty right here.
Y'all could have prevented this from happening. You guys allowed the colonists," and I love that they called them colonists. Like, it was like, okay, the colonizers.
Colonizers.
Yeah, it's just, they did a really good job of showing that you can't disagree, to the point where everything that happens from here on out in the reign of King T'Challa is thanks to Killmonger. They end up going with his plan of action later. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And I could spend all day talking about Killmonger, about how awesome of a villain he is. But again, go to PlayLifeYourWay.com, PlayYourWayPodcast.com, or PlayYourWayNetwork.com. Pick or choose, and we'll get you there. Or you can go at Play Your Way Podcast on Instagram and click the link in the description. So there you go. Nate, you're doing a good job of leading. Lead us on to, I think we've talked about the pluses. It's time to get on down to the nitty gritty.
Did you have any other pluses?
Well, yeah, I have one more.
Okay.
I mean, I had a bunch more, but this one I think can offer up a little bit of discussion. This was personally surprising to me, because I was so positive that the last Infinity Stone was going to be in Wakanda. And after the movie, I was kind of like, well, why the fuck didn't they? And then I was like, the movie's better for it because it doesn't serve really the overarching Avengers plot that we've been building. This is a very personal movie. And now, I'm not so sure the Soul Stone is in Wakanda.
I'm not so sure anymore, which is a great plot device to have there because it makes Infinity War not so predictable. Mm-hmm. So when it does show up, it's going to be like, oh, and where is it?
Now I'm wondering why is there a battle in Wakanda in the trailers?
Bro, they do such a good job of showing.
I mean, it still could be, and they just not told us.
Yes. So they did such a good job of making the geography of Wakanda feel real. Like, I feel like that's a real place I can go, which is a mind fuck when you think about it, because they did the exact opposite when it came to Sokovia. Sokovia didn't feel real at all. And you couldn't feel, you have no idea to this day where you would, is it the Czech Republic? Is it Dagestan? Like, where is it? You don't know where it is. This, Wakanda, you kind of have a sense for, like, I could go to a map and I could put where I think it's going to be.
I think it's southwest of the Congo. You know what I'm saying? If we head in that area, you know what I mean?
It's definitely going to be in the middle of a rainforest somewhere, like kind of. But then it's also on the countryside because it's nothing but goat herders, and it's in the mountains. So
it also tells you how big the nation of Wakanda is. Like, this ain't just like, this is sprawling, huge, gigantic.
And they said it's surrounded by an impenetrable rainforest. Like, they tell you the geography of this place and why it was never found. So here's the rub. Where is it? Where is the Soul Stone if it's there? You could
still argue that it might, that's where the heart-shaped herb comes from. It's a tinfoil theory to think the asteroid that does fall into Wakanda could have been the Soul Stone, eons ago. And that's where they get the vibranium or, the heart-shaped herbs. I don't know, but and part of me also thinks it could show up in Captain Marvel, too.
To your credit. Nice. Well, and there's another stone outside of the Soul Stone, that's missing, too, I believe. So there's a couple of stones we don't know where they are.
No, that's
one
the
we
only
all
one.
assumed was in Wakanda. Was that the only one? Okay.
We don't know. Do we know where the Power Stone is? Or is that already on
Power Stone, I believe, was what the Guardians had, and that should be in Xandar.
That is the one. That is the Power Stone.
Okay.
The Mind Stone was inside the staff.
Yeah.
That's Vision,
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I was going to list the other ones, but anyway.
Well, here's what makes me think that it is in Wakanda. Let's go back to the first Avengers film. I'm loving this episode. This episode is really good, by the way, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited. We are definitely doing discussion
the player way
on this episode. Shout out to Pris's
her brother.
Pris.
Benjamin Diaz. He is a jack of all trade, master of most. That's this guy. And he did help construct this shirt for me. Thanks to Nate for the graphic. Nice. But yeah, tagless and everything, and
it's awesome.
And it just goes right with our apparel shop, which is also found at playyourwaynetwork.com.
That's right. We got to make that money, bro. Got to make that money. Pay the bills.
Infinity Stones.
But
break it down.
But going to if you go to the first Avengers film, I did a rewatch of the first Avengers film after this one.
Okay.
And here's what I noticed. If you notice, the Mind Stone, we didn't know the Mind Stone was inside the staff at the time. But think about the characteristics that the weapon did. When it touched people, it actually controlled their minds.
Of course.
It actually bent the minds to the will. Just being in the presence of it changed your mind state. Mm-hmm. Okay? So what I'm believing is not only does touching the stones and being in the presence of them have an effect on people, but it has an effect on the environment as well. So what I'm believing is that what would be smart is that vibranium is made by the Soul Stone being ingrained in that metal. So, like, all of the environment touching there. And it even says in the prologue to the film, they talked about the comet hitting the ground and it had a profound effect on all of the wildlife there.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking the stone was inside of, and they even said, I don't know if someone in the film said this, but they said, how does a metal do all of this? Like, how is it possible for a metal to do so much?
I love that they
And
kept
that would
referring to it as a
explain-
mineral. I'm like, it's a mineral.
Yes.
That's even more.
Yeah, yes.
That opens up everything because it. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're perfect. And even the fact that the mines have a glow to them, even though vibranium, and like you said, it's a mineral, it's not a metal. So it could start off as like this stone-like crystal material, and when you grind it up, it makes, and you combine it with other metals, it makes this metal. It makes an alloy. So I love that if it is there, it's in the mines, is what I think it's in.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
looking at a quick recap of these, we had the, of course, the Space Stone, which was introduced as the Tesseract and everything, but then we found out more. Even so, Reality Stone was the Collector's, Power Stone, as you mentioned, Guardians of the Galaxy, Mind Stone, Vision, and then Soul Stone is obviously the big question mark. Time Stone is obviously Doctor Strange, but I think that's a wonderful theory. That it makes sense. It makes logical sense and would go along with the story.
Even go on to the Eye of Agamotto. The Eye of Agamotto has an effect on all of time, like the fabric of time, very fabric of time. So it doesn't just. So it's almost like there's a secondary, like element that it affects. Like one affects, like literally, like the what was it called? The red stuff in Thor.
The Aether.
Yeah, the ether. Now, what did it affect? Remind me of what it affected.
That was one of those. Just name a power. You know?
Okay. It was more like a chemical that you could put inside to somebody's body. It was like a living. It was almost like a. What's the word I'm looking for when you can make something that is inanimate have like sentience? There you go. Sentient. It was like a sentient chemical almost.
Gotcha. And Loki has has the other one, and it's we think he's going to hand that one over, right?
Yeah.
Well,
so.
see, it shows him like handing it to someone in the trailer.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know yet, but we never technically. Yeah, but.
And that could be an illusion, as Nate thought he
just like that we talked about on the deep dive about this. A couple things in the Black Panther trailers were not in the movie and slightly adjusted to where you didn't really. It wasn't exactly as you thought it was. Just like they've done with with Thor's, losing an eye. I appreciate that just because we're just so saturated with such information in the trailers these days.
Dude, we were just like on all 5 cylinders today because Nate. We can do a callback to what Nate said. Nate said he thinks that that's what's happening in the trailer for Infinity War. When we see people running to battle in Wakanda, there could be more or less people in that actual scene.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because didn't you say you think they're probably mess with that CGI there and putting people there who may not be there, or there may be.
I mean, they've done it with Civil War, with taking Spider-Man out. Who knows?
They did it with Age of Ultron, where in the final scene when they were in that little thing,
that room,
it was like a gondola type of thing.
Yeah, that room.
The brother and sister, Peter and what's her face, were not there in the actual trailer when they did that, but then they added them in there later. Yeah, so yeah, and I think they did that with Valkyrie as well, where we saw some scenes in the trailer where we saw Thor and Hulk, but then Valkyrie ended up being there in the actual film. So yeah, I like Derek, appreciate that as well because it keeps you guessing. Go to Derek, talk about trailers. You're one of those people that was worried that they showed too much in the trailer for this.
With regards to this one, and I have a split decision on this because a lot of the information they showed in the recent Black Panther trailers was just, in essence, a lot of scenes from the Korea fight. Like, honestly, when I first saw the Black Panther trailer, I was almost convinced that him jumping from car to car was leading toward a climactic scene. I was almost convinced of it.
Right.
My only drawback is I wish I had never seen Michael B. Jordan in the Golden Jaguar outfit. Like, I would have liked to that been a complete surprise and me not know that he was in Wakanda and they were clearly fighting. But
well, you know what I like about that? They kind of put a lot of misinformation out. They called that suit the Golden Jaguar suit in advance. It was not a Golden Jaguar suit. It was the Black Panther suit.
Yeah, I like that
that
too.
Was a shock to me when we saw the quote-unquote Golden Jaguar suit sitting right next to the Black Panther suit. I said, oh shit, that's a legit because that was the thing about Killmonger from the comics, is that he had a fake. He never really even had a Black Panther suit, first and foremost, and then he had a synthetic herb. But in this film, he was a full-on king of Wakanda.
He was a Black
actually
Panther.
in the lineage of Black Panther.
He was.
Which means there may be a scene in the upcoming film where if he has to go, T'Challa has to go under to go talk to the kings of the past, he's going to be there because he's a legitimate king of Wakanda.
Well, he
from the
can't.
past.
But the challenge was never
gone.
completed, though. So does it mean that he technically was king because they did that? But since the challenge wasn't completed,
that was a technicality. He was dead.
Also,
Like,
the herbs
T'Challa's
are all
defeated.
gone. They were burned, so technically he can't go back to.
I feel like they
ancestral
have to
plants
have
and more
something
grow.
hidden. They have to have, because that one.
That's what makes me think the Soul Stone is there. Because that would explain how it could come back.
They're growing.
Yeah,
you know
well,
what I mean?
I think
They're
it will
growing
come
out of-
back, but they said it'll probably take time. But this is also like a plot device to say during Infinity War they can't just go handing these out to people and saying, "Hey, this is going to make you stronger. Hey, Cap, come here." You know,
Yeah.
drink
Dude,
this.
and on top of that, dude, it's also very possible that Killmonger's not dead at all.
It's
I mean,
very.
they could pull a Coulson.
It's very probable because they could have. They had all the resources right there to keep him alive. Just and I like that.
He even says it. He says
Just to keep me in bond?
Well, no. Before that, he says, we could heal you still.
Oh yeah.
Like he tells him, he does and he has the heart-shaped herb. So
Yeah, he said
how
that,
could
but
he
that was
not
right
heal?
before he pulled out the pulled out.
They
the
didn't
spear.
really show like him actually dying. You know,
No,
they
they
show
didn't.
the sunset.
Him
He
and
slumping
stayed
the
over.
alive
cut.
for a long
So
fucking time.
They gave him the
This is
Shane. They
comic
gave him the
book world.
Shane business.
Yeah.
Slumped over the horse.
Unless you actually see like the head come off, and roll on
Yeah,
the floor, they could be brought back. At
Let's
any
be
time.
honest, man.
Bro,
Like
Say
anything is
Claw
possible.
2, bro. Claw 2.
Yeah.
We never
Right?
saw Claw die. We
Man.
never saw what he got shot with.
Well, no, because they had the body
45 to the
afterwards.
face.
It doesn't matter. He was dragging a body. You never saw a dead body.
Yes, we
You saw him
did.
dragging
He
a body.
opened it
He
up
still be-
and showed him to what's his name, the guy.
I don't want.
Wakabi.
Okay, I need
Get
to see
out.
it again.
Yeah, because
By
that's
the
what
way,
when he
I
met him
try-
at the border. When he met him at the border, he was like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Just take a look." And then he opens it up, and you just see Claw dead ass right there in the bag. And that was just that. And he was like, "Oh, who are you?" Boom.
Which brings me to the first thing that I didn't like. I didn't like that they killed Claw off. Claw was pretty good, man.
He was.
He was
And
funny.
Andy Serkis
He was funny
should
in
play
this.
Is that
more
on
roles.
your list,
Yeah.
Nate?
My nitpicks.
Segues
No,
are
that
so
wasn't.
beautiful. That was such a
I
beautiful
thought,
segue. Can I
him
just say
dying did service. It was more plot service to making Killmonger to his arc more than anything. You know.
It made him look like a real badass.
Yeah, but again,
And he made.
I didn't
and
really
made
feel
T'Challa
like he
look
was
like
a
bitch.
badass.
Like, oh, pop.
Yeah.
Like he did it effortlessly. No, I got this. Let me show you guys how to kill somebody. Whop.
Dude, I even love the fact that I thought what they were going to do is say that he took the synthetic herb before he got there. Nope. He beat him drug free.
He was just bow. Hit him with the grenade.
And that's why in my editorial I'll even say the editorial that's at playlifeyourway.com, also at playyourwaypodcast.com. I say that what makes this film so great is what makes T'Challa a little annoying is the same things that make Superman a little annoying. And the things that make Killmonger so cool are the same reasons that Batman is cool. In my opinion, this is black Batman versus Superman. Like he's Batman. Killmonger's Batman, dude. The tactical expertise, the ability to underneath, the losing his
Killmonger-
parents when he was young.
Killmonger
He's Killmonger,
is
dude.
cooler than Batman. I'm just gonna say it. I think Killmonger in hand to hand would have been a hell of an opponent for Bruce Wayne. Just straight up man to man. And with the
Nate,
suit, it's over. With the suit and the herb, it's
Nate,
not
can
even
I get
a
a
contest.
cosign? Is he not Black Bruce Wayne?
Without the
It's
money.
No, but he has the money too, though. But he has the money too. If you know anything about Killmonger, he was an actual businessman. That's how he could afford to do all the shit that he was doing.
Well, this
was
Killmonger
rich.
was
Killmonger's
this
rich.
Killmonger was
Yeah,
you know,
he was more like a mercenary.
Yeah, he was a mercenary.
Yeah, but they they kind of hint at the fact that
he's educated though. Like he's very educated.
He's
I
educated
love that.
like a mother, man.
He's Ryan Coogler. It's Eric Coogler Monger. Like that's who it was. You know what I'm saying?
I love the accent. His I seen his yard. It's that same accent. I seen his yard.
Y'all shitting good up in here. You know what I'm saying? I want that shit too. Like just,
what's up, Auntie?
What's hey, Auntie?
Hey, Auntie. Exactly. There you go.
I like.
Go ahead, Nate, with your nitpick.
My nitpick is, and I kind of felt this way with Doctor Strange, is I don't think Marvel should shy away from making these movies feel like a longer stretch of time. You know, it felt very short.
It was his third day.
It
felt like
like
it was his
4
third
days.
day
Like
as king.
He becomes king. He goes to Korea. Killmonger comes. He becomes king. Killmonger loses, the throne, and it all felt like it was within 4 or 5 days.
This was between Tuesday through Sunday.
I would have loved if it's been like a month, and Wakanda's been shitty because Killmonger's been in charge for a month, and T'Challa's just been sitting on that bag of ice.
You know why I'm going to give you this credit? Not because I agree with you necessarily in this case, but had it not been for the fact that we've all been subject timeline-wise to what Marvel actually calls and fans call Nick Fury's busy week. Are you guys familiar with that concept?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
no.
So there's this concept. You can look it up. It's called Nick Fury's busy week. Apparently the events of what is it? Iron Man 2, the first Thor,
Cap,
Incredible Hulk, and Cap 2 maybe? No, not Cap 2. But there's like 3 or 4 films that they all happen within like this. Oh yeah, and part of Captain America at the very end. Yes, you're right. Yeah. At the end of Captain America, the First Avenger. So those 4 films all happen the same week.
Yeah.
The Incredible Hulk,
Thor,
the
Iron
end
Man
of,
2,
yeah,
Incredible Hulk all took place in a 7-day period. During these 7 days.
The end of Captain America: The First Avenger. Those 4 films all happen in 7 days. Are you kidding me? How
Stark's
is that
Expo,
even possible?
Flushing Meadows exploded. Hulk rampaged against the Abomination in Harlem. Asgard was attacked, and a New Mexico town was demolished.
Yes, it's like what?
Kind of speaking to that, it's like we understand that the amount of time between these movies are in real time. So Civil War was 2 years ago. We're now 2 years later. Black Panther is set after Civil War. You could easily say
after.
Like this.
Almost.
This took much more amount of time, and hey, for plot service, this is why T'Challa never helped out with anything else in between, because he had his own shit to deal with. I kind of felt that way about like Doctor Strange too. It's like he felt like he trained in a week, and I would have. You could have set this much earlier and said it took years to train. I think Marvel can do a better job with showing these movies,
and they tried to do that with Strange, but their passage of time doesn't work so well. They really need to look into that because essentially Civil War and Black Panther the film happened all within the same week.
Mm-hmm. Because they said he died a week later, and then when it shows T'Challa sitting in the thing, it's been a week since it exploded.
Fuck Nick Fury's busy week. What about T'Challa's busy week?
And if you think about that, if it's been a week since the United Nations exploded, think about the days after that, which led up to that fight in Germany at the airport and all that. So, in essence, that fight happened a couple days. And then with Bucky waking up, it makes perfect sense but I did have a question about this, so I have to go to my 2 experts.
Before you say anything else, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, with all due respect, if you are listening to this episode, not only are you getting all of your content curated
the player way,
but we are dropping all kinds of gems and we're giving you exclusives.
The player way.
Exclusive.
Go ahead, bro.
With Winter Soldier being frozen at the end of Civil War and him waking up in a hut, what time frame would you say that would be? You know what I mean? Because
I think
in essence,
that's more
he was standing
closer
next
to
him.
Infinity War.
Do you think
it's been quite a while. Because of Shuri. because of Suri. That's her name, right? Zuri.
His
Shuri.
sister.
Suri. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shuri.
obviously.
Shuri.
Shuri.
So remember, she spent some time over.
In
There was
Oakland.
a bit of a passage of time in Oakland.
Okay.
And obviously they spent some time building that thing in Oakland, and now she's back, and she looks a little different too.
Yeah.
Like she looks like her hair is a little different, style a little different, and I like how looks like Bucky might not be homosexual after all. I mean, look, he's about to get him some brown sugar.
He had to. He had to give himself the stranger. I know that.
I mean, I'm definitely gonna say that my conspiracy theory for this episode.
Oh, Nate, let it.
I'll come back in 5 minutes.
My conspiracy theory for this week is that Bucky and Zuri they're gonna get together.
This, I think, I don't know if you caught this at the end, but the kids were calling him White Wolf.
Yep, and White Wolf is a different character.
Yeah, but in the MCU, you could easily make Bucky, I guess, their White Wolf, and
they actually
give him a home outside of the Cat movies too. You know.
Well, they actually mixed White Wolf's. They kind of split White Wolf's story between Claw and Bucky, because they said in the film that Claw apparently had been the only white dude that they had let into their village up until the point of the movie. So like they said the reason why he knew where everything was because he had gotten hurt and they brought him into the village before, and he was the only white guy they had left in since. So that's kind of White Wolf's story, is that he was a guy that had been healed and got to grow up and grow old there.
Well, we don't know how much time he spent there. You know.
But obviously if the first person they call White Wolf is Bucky, and then the only other white dude is Claw, then obviously they split that story between two different characters.
Yeah.
Exclusive. Dead ass. Nitpicks, man. More nitpicks.
The pacing was my only nitpick. So
all right, go ahead.
Not a nitpick, but this is going to be an expansion on what your nitpick was on the deep dive. And
do it, bro.
Let's just dive into it. You were not a fan.
You watched it the second time.
Yes, and it even it infused what I already thought the first time. So I'll just present to you my theory, and we'll just go from there. The Sonic whatevers, they disrupt vibranium and make it in essence inactive. All right. The suit is contained in the necklace because it's nano material, so therefore it's it's ridiculously small, microscopic. So therefore the suit has a pattern to go over the body specifically. Mm-hmm. Now it's infused with vibranium, so the sonic disruptors, I'll just call it that. I can't remember the specific term that but you get what I'm talking about. Would make the vibranium inactive. However, the nanites would still be constantly trying to cover any aspect of the skin, whether the vibranium's there or not. But since the vibranium is inactive, it would cause some sort of friction between the nanites trying to do it and the vibranium being inactive, which would create the space. Now, the second time I watched it, I could even see the grid of the nanites on Killmonger's skin, which would be where they would be projected to go. But since the vibranium's being disrupted, it would probably cause some sort of tidal push between the two. That's why it was all over the place. Now, visually, it looked more like a hologram, which was your nitpick. However, I feel that this is what they were trying to go for, but I don't think it should have been as jumpy. I feel like it should have been more almost like symbiotic. You know what I mean? That type of pull as opposed to how it was. But I appreciate them even going so far with the science of that. And then just even the detail and the small window that would even create to even have these two guys fight. That was a hell of a move. Right. You know what I'm saying? So
here's my thought about it. The reason why I don't like it, and I did some digging a little bit more as well after this conversation, because I knew you were going to come back with that, and to your credit, you're more articulate about it this time around. However, here's why I'm resolute.
Well, and I couldn't spoil it.
Yes. So true. Well, okay, I'll give you that too. So if you go back to the comics, and the reason why it's relevant is because we're going to see something that resembles the Bleeding Edge armor. Okay, and if you know anything about that armor, Tony Stark basically hollows, and Nate backed me up on this, but literally the nanites that make up that suit are inside his bones.
Yeah.
So like literally,
In
he
his
drills.
body, yeah.
It's inside of his bones is where it stays in order for
I
him
don't know
to.
about all that.
Well, no, it's in his bones. I looked it up. I did a real deep dive this week. So it's inside of his bones is where it, and it's almost like the guy from what's the guy's name? I keep wanting to call Akimichi Choji, but that's wrong. The dude from Naruto
the Beatles?
who has the
Shino?
bugs.
Aburami?
Shino. Okay, so
Shino.
yes, Aburami Shino. Give you that
Yep.
one. So Shino, like how he has holes in his cheeks and stuff, and they come out, and they
bugs come
say
out?
in the anime, the bugs live in his bone marrow. Like they even say that in the anime. So it's a similar thing to the bleeding edge armor. Where you kind of have a problem though is it works somewhat in the comics because that's a lot of surface area to put things to
Of course.
nanites if that's, but it doesn't work when how thick that armor is going to be if you're going to go to this thing where it's in his wrist. For example, if you watched Civil War, you see that Tony's working on this wristband that keeps part of his armor inside of it. So what they're letting you know is they're not going to put it inside of his bones because that's kind of morbid and it's kind of weird. They're going to probably have he's probably going to have a couple of bracelets.
They're cool
if
with
you
the
go back
thing
to
in
the
his heart,
original,
though. Why wouldn't
and if
they
you go
just
back,
bridge that gap?
I know, because they could have just left that alone. Exactly, because that's where they could have lived if they left that in there. But
Right?
I
It
agree,
made the
100%.
most sense.
I 100% agree with you. But what they did, if you notice, there's like this really brilliant pattern. I would encourage you guys to go back. If you listen to this, go back and watch all of the Avengers films, because in Iron Man films and all of them, because there's these little hints of how it's going to happen. If you go to the original Avengers film, the prototype that Iron Man is working on, it's these two bracelets that he puts on, and the two bracelets is how the armor is called to him. Exactly. And then in this newer one, it's like inside of this glove, and then there's even like this suitcase in Iron Man 2 to kind of make the armor more and more compact. Where it's going to fall apart like a house of cards is if he has a full, thick-ass, dead-ass armor that comes out of two bracelets on his hand. That's when it's going to get silly. Because it's like, how can a... Because if you do the specs on the bleeding edge armor, it makes him it's like 400 pounds of armor. Okay, how do you get 400 pounds from nanites? It's not possible. So it's the same problem on a much more
Because they're still going to weigh 400
microscopic level.
pounds somewhere. It's still going to be 400 pounds of something somewhere.
Exactly. And if it's you see a black suit, and his black suit that he puts the shoes on, these are physical shoes that we saw. You saw
Absolutely.
that they were physical tieable shoes. So you're trying to tell me the shoes that he wears all the time are the Black Panther ninja shoes? Bullshit. They're supposedly come out of that damn necklace. So that's where I got a problem, because you got physical things that actually take up space and you see them and they're tangible, but then when you have the final battle, oh, now it's a projection. They tell you it's
I
actually
have
a physical thread.
the best
earlier.
answer for you, honestly. Okay,
I know, and it's not good enough.
You ready? No, are you ready? It is. It is.
Yeah.
Vibranium doesn't obey the law of physics, man.
There you go. There you go.
That's just it. We just have to accept it. We just have to accept it. We just have to accept it. You know,
Dude,
it's just one of those.
it's
It's just like my
fucking
just like my gripes about
Ant-Man,
Star
you know?
Wars. You can't let the bombs
like-
go and then fall in non-gravity. You can't like cut through 19 ships when you went through light speed through one. I just have to accept it.
Yep.
I just have to accept it.
Yep, and I'll give you that. But as a result, the CGI, what my point is if we're going to suspend our disbelief, then the CGI has to make sense. And so the animation, like you said, should have been more like a symbiote suit.
Or bigger
and what I would
blocks.
have loved about
bigger
that,
blocks. Because
and
I
what
saw there was one part, it was over his back, his calves, his chest, his
Uh-huh.
arms. I'm like, it's everywhere. And they're even kind of outside the realm of the sonic disruptors. Like, it's inconsistent. They even went to show Black Panther's claws digging in and the heel of his foot not having armor, but the front digging in.
Yes.
But yet when he was standing outside of the film, it was outside of the field, it was still bouncing around. I'm like, well then, by that logic, then his whole foot would have just not had claws.
What they should have said is that the suit itself was projection. Don't even mention something about threading or that it was all contained within this physical space. What they should have showed you is how it worked. They had a Q-like scene, Q meaning the guy from
Star
007. They had a scene where they show her, Shuri, acting like Q. They should have showed that it's not real fabric. Like, try to pinch it off your body. And then when he went to go pinch it, it shouldn't have moved.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, it's like you're actually naked, but we can't tell that you're naked. Like, it puts an electrical projection all over your body, but when you touch it, the electrical fields give off the feel of fabric. So when you touch it, it feels like it's real, but it's not really there. That's what they could have easily did to make it work, instead of making it seem like it was this physical thing. Even down to the fact that what made me think that it was really more of an electrical projection was that their clothes burned off of them when they were
put
inside
them on?
their clothes.
Yes.
And so what it was is these electrical fields literally burned their clothes off.
Just
so that
like
let
when
you know it wasn't
Whiplash,
real fabric.
When Whiplash
Because
turned
if it
his
was
on.
Because if it was real fabric, then it would just go over the suit, like the Venom suit. Or like, well, not the Venom suit, because Venom suit, technically you're naked for that too. Like the Spider-Man suit. You're just underneath.
And then sucked in and pressure against it. Yeah.
Exactly. Look at you. Look at you literally pulling up what they did in Spider-Man Homecoming to show you how it vacuum seals him inside the suit. Look at that, man. You are doing... Look at you. You are too much. You are doing assistance.
The Player Way.
But overall, man, it's a great movie. Great movie. I couldn't find many... I kept forcing myself to find things to nitpick about. I'm like, all right, split up. And then they all went the same way. But that ain't even nothing to really gripe about, because then they actually did split up. So I kept trying to find things to be...
Yes, I agree. And there are limitations to CGI. So in that final scene, what you're seeing isn't that they couldn't do a good job.
It's just the best that they could do.
Yeah.
And if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be MCU.
I agree. Boy, look at you.
Disney owns this
that's
year.
the nitpick.
I will say that. Disney won 2018 already. Like, it's over with.
Bro, speaking of owning, okay, can we just call out the fact that Derek and I have been doing like these comical digital shorts on Instagram. If you are not on our Instagram, you ain't popping. When you're on our Instagram, at Corrupting the System, just like it sounds, on IG, and at Playerway Podcast, which is not my IG. The Playerway Podcast is all of our IG, but I sacrifice having a personal IG in order to take one for the team and bring all of my followers that I had on my personal page to our podcast. That's how I roll.
To take one for the what? I didn't catch what you said. Take one
exactly.
Because there was
a
team.
Indeed.
There was an idea.
Exactly. There was an idea. Exactly.
Please
so
go on.
If you are not on our Instagrams, you ain't popping, because on Instagram is where you get all of the
exclusive. The Player Way.
Exclusive.
But definitely, I love how at the end of our back and forth about how terrible DC is doing, because this past week we've spent so much time on the tasting the pineapple of one Ryan Coogler that we haven't even talked about what other media is going on. But really, there's no, to the point where I didn't even release a hot pepper challenge, captain's challenge this past week, because it was like, what's the point? No one's going to watch it. So we're just going to save that for this week. But yeah, they decided to announce that as a trailer to promote the Blu-ray DVD release, because yes, they do release DVDs still, of Justice League. The black suit is of the Superman black suit that we all thought we were going to get, because the guy who plays Superman put on his Instagram the black freaking suit. So we go and see the movie. It's like, well, I guess that was trolling.
Man.
Come to find out he wasn't trolling. They just decided not to put it in the film. The best thing they could have done for Superman, they didn't put in the film.
Even seeing that, because I originally showed you a fan-made funny video of him wearing a black suit.
Which looks
and
so real.
Honestly, it was really... I would have appreciated that scene. It had... Nate, I don't think you've seen it, but it's where he says his cheesy line of... I'm also a fan of Justice, but it shows him hovering in, flying down in the black suit, and then pow on the side of Steppenwolf's face. And it's hilarious, but it even reminded me more so, even though I didn't fully hate Justice League, it reminded me of all the things that I didn't get from it and that I didn't like about it, to where they just chopped it up. Like, all the things, like, there's another even funny video where it cuts in from Ted, where they're getting rid of the porn off his laptop, saying that was everything from Zack Snyder's cut. Get rid of it all. Get rid of it all. Just throw it away.
Exactly.
Bury it. We got to bury it. Put it in the bay. And it's that whole scene. But it's right, man. It goes to show just the stellar differences between the collective MCU vision, and even when it's not a perfect collective vision, how they actually get together and figure out where they can make it fit. Where the holes that they have, where they can make fun of themselves for having the holes, and where they can actually fill those in. And it's just so prominent that WB and DC, they just don't do that. They just don't do that. And they have so much material. You and I joked about it. It's like, I even had a status a few weeks back when I went back and replayed Injustice. I'm like, here's your movie, Justice League. Just play this. Just do this. Follow the game and just do this. Put the actors in it. That's it. There's so much material. And MCU just keeps crushing them. They have a plethora of anything they want to do, and they can do it so easy. And then DC falls flat with the easiest characters to put before anybody. Yes! Play that trombone sad all the way down to
the biggest difference, I think, the way that the studio is run is Marvel hires people that will actually be passionate about the material, to where it's a labor of love, not a product that needs to be churned out.
Yes, to go. It's
Zack Snyder
is that. Go ahead.
Like what he did with Man of Steel, it wasn't a very personal movie with him. He made a cool movie. We finally got to see Superman punch someone and get in an all-out brawl, which is what people wanted to see. And since people responded well to that, they tasked him to herald an entire universe, which Zack Snyder... To put, I think a good metaphor, Zack Snyder's a great offensive coordinator, but he's a terrible head coach. He doesn't know how to build a universe.
And I'll go to
he's a very visual guy. He can compose a beautiful shot, but he can't create a story. His best movies are where he goes frame by frame from the source material, like 300 or Watchmen. It's literal visual translation of the comic.
Let's do it. We were going to talk about the top 5 villains, and I keep apologizing. If you keep listening to the podcast every week to listen to us to do our top 5 villains,
the player way,
and you keep hearing us push them off the same way that Jimmy Kimmel pushes off Matt Damon every week, we're doing the same thing.
The same way that Fergie pushed off the national anthem at the All-Star game.
Exactly. We're pushing that one off, because now we're going to talk about what Zack Snyder really is. If you are a DCEU fan, you might not want to listen to the rest of this episode, because we're about to hurt your feelings. Okay, here's what's going down.
We're just facts and receipts.
Here's what I think.
We're just throwing facts and receipts.
My soapbox just came out.
Oh.
Here's what's going on. Here's the problem with the idea of Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder is not a director. He is not a producer. He is a director of photography. Okay? Yeah. There is a difference. He is also a strong editor as well. Okay? He's a great visual artist, but he is not a director. He just is not. He's just not. It's not his strong suit. It would be great if you took Christopher Nolan and then had Zack Snyder as a second to him. It would be an amazing fucking film. Okay? Because one of the things about, in my opinion, Nolan does a great job, but he surrounds himself with amazing visual artists, okay, that you never hear about. Okay? All you hear about is him. Okay? But in truth, he knows how to surround himself with really good people. Zack Snyder makes amazing shots, and that's all he's focused on. You can tell that all he wants to do. Let's go back to the MCU for a second. It is not a mistake that Ryan Coogler was specifically chosen to tell a black film, okay? Nor was it a mistake that Kenneth Branagh, a Shakespearean actor who played Hamlet, who directed Hamlet, who is gone in history as being one of the greatest theatrical actors of all time and directors of all time, they brought forth a Shakespearean type of film in the original Thor. Okay, so they were going after this Shakespearean Hamlet-esque type of idea. Okay, same thing with Black Panther. They wanted that hood. They wanted that representation of what it means to be black, but brought into the MCU. Okay, it's the same thing with bringing in the guy who's amazing at Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all of these fan fiction things, the ultimate fanboy. Okay, the guy who, up until Avengers, he had these film projects that were cult followings. Okay, think about what I'm saying and how it's going to end. Okay, these cult following type of things: Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Serenity. Okay. And then they give him to do the ultimate fanboy film. Okay? Because they didn't care about making a shit ton at the box office, although they knew they were going to do it, but they wanted something that would survive beyond the day. They wanted something with replay value. Something that is going to be a fan film that is a cult following 20 years from now. The same way that George Lucas did with his original masterpiece, his space opera. Okay, so every time Marvel chooses a director, they're very careful, even down to Iron Man. The guy they choose to do Iron Man, okay, is a guy who's even in the film. They wanted a director that was very similar to the director of the original Spider-Man trilogy, because at that time, that was the gold standard. Okay, so Marvel knows how to choose directors, okay? It's the reason why I doubt Kevin Smith will ever get to touch a fucking film. However, for a fact Kevin Smith did get to at least look at a DC script before.
I think you're overlooking the gigantic $10 million budget of Spawn and Todd McFarlane and
So my point in all of that is Zack Snyder, for all intents and purposes, he's not a
cinematographer.
He's a cinematographer. Yeah. He's a director of photography. Exactly. Yeah. That is what he is, a cinematographer, a director of photography. And he needs to sit his ass down.
I'm Roland Emmerich is good at destroying shit. He's good at making movies about destroying shit.
If you want a ship being destroyed, Roland Emmerich's your guy.
Yes.
You want to see it blown up in slow motion? That is great.
If you need low sweeping shots, Michael Bay has got you covered. He has got you covered.
Is Roland Emmerich the original Pirates of the Caribbean?
No,
that was Gore Verbinski.
Yeah, Gore Verbinski.
Gore Verbinski. That's who I was thinking of. Gore Verbinski. If you want to see a ship blown up in slow motion, that's Gore Verbinski. that moment where you see the guy is it Pirates of the Caribbean 2 where you see the guy walk down in slow motion as he's walking down the ship, down the stairs on the ship, and the ship is like blowing up all around him in slow motion.
That was the third one. Yeah.
That's like an iconic Gore Verbinski moment. Same thing with Michael Bay. If you want the low sweeping shots,
and quick cuts.
Yes.
Michael Bay. If you want a world destroyed, you go to Roland Emmerich.
Yes.
If you want two doves, you go to John Woo, who I don't know if he makes.
Zack Snyder has it, in my opinion. Yeah, I remember John Woo. If you want somebody to pull a gun out slowly and the jacket to go flare out,
and some doves, John Woo. Some doves or pigeons,
and some doves, exactly. So, dude, the '90s was so crazy. The early 2000s
directed by John Woo.
Yes, dude.
Yeah,
because that was True Lies, right? Was John Woo True Lies?
No, that was James Cameron.
Oh, James Cameron, dude. Man, that just shows.
If you want a movie every 12 years, you go to James Cameron.
Yeah, exactly. And people will see that motherfucker even if they don't replay it ever again.
Yeah. If you want to have the highest box office of all time, go to James Cameron. Just got to wait 12 years.
Exactly. But that's my thing is, there's nothing about Zack Snyder's style. Like when you talk about all these people we're talking about, we can tell you what their distinctive style is. What is Zack Snyder's style other than CGI all over the fucking place?
Desaturated,
digital artist, digital.
He does a lot of slow-mo fights. Honestly, he does compose a great shot, but as I've said before, he's a shitty storyteller, and that's been the problem with the universe and why they haven't been able to keep directors. Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman movie looked like a labor of love. It was her sort of story. She did shoehorn bits of Snyder's shit, like that stupid picture. But for the most part, it seemed like it was her movie.
Basically the whole cast that was Zack Snyder's fuck up. The stuff we didn't like about Wonder Woman is Zack Snyder's fuck up. I mean, seriously. But and to go to, since we're talking about Snyder, it's actually been almost, I would say 80% confirmed, maybe even 90% confirmed, to go to a conspiracy theory we had on a previous episode.
Conspiracy. But what if?
No need to play this twice.
A previous conspiracy theory
take us to the
is
end of the
that
film, boys. All right.
that despite all of the issues that Zack Snyder was having within his family, and that he stepped away for that reason, we had a conspiracy theory that he got dismissed, and that they picked that perfect time to do that, because it was weird that the timing of his tragedy wasn't the week it happened. It was like it had happened months ago.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's actually been confirmed. I mean, I would say all but confirmed. I mean, that Zack Snyder was fired, that they got rid of him. So, it's one of those things where Zack Snyder, he reminds me a lot of, who's the guy who did Beetlejuice and Addams Family Values?
Burton.
He's got that.
Tim Burton.
Yeah, Tim Burton. He reminds me of Tim Burton a lot. Whereas Tim Burton has more of a real style to his work.
He's a much better director.
But yes, he's a much better director. But like the directorial style of Tim Burton gets into the cinematography, which kind of is what messes up working with Tim Burton sometimes. Because on Batman, the original Batman, he did great, but then in the second one, you could tell that they let him do whatever he wanted to, and he got into the cinematography and editing, and it messed it up. You got to silo that stuff so that a guy's vision doesn't go too far. And so it's the same thing in this. Shout out to Ryan Johnson, by the way. You can't let a director go too far. You got to reel him in and say, well, okay, well, this is a real universe. We got to watch it. And that's the thing with Zack Snyder. He will do whatever. It doesn't have to make any sense. All for the aspect of getting that great shot that Nate just talked about. So, yeah. Best of luck to them on cleaning up their series. As Derek and I started out talking about all of our exclusives that we have on Instagram, we had a funny video that Derek ends up, and he so eloquently says, so what do we got? Wait, nope. So you want us to focus on Aquaman now? Like, after Black Panther, like, I don't even want to see Aquaman.
Like, nope. and that it makes me sad, because I've never seen an Aquaman movie other than the animated Warner Brother ones, and we've said before, make those movies.
Snippet from Vincent Chase.
There you go,
masterpiece.
Vinny Chase playing the
like,
DJ.
We've said before,
running off the pier
in his hoodie.
The animated movies that Warner Brothers produces should be what they make for the live action ones. The Aquaman movie that is in the DC is in the animated Warner Brothers should be the Aquaman movie, but I know that it's not, and it sucks that it takes away that excitement for this because of this. I was just looking at Zack Snyder's IMDb, and there's so many DC things that he's still tied to, allegedly upcoming, and it just and just looking at it, it doesn't even get me excited. And I've always liked DC better than Marvel, and that takes away even more.
The only thing that I am excited for, to be totally honest with you, there's two things DC-wise I'm excited for. The Batman film that's going to go back.
We'll see if that even gets made.
Yeah, and it could possibly be a reboot.
Oh, I know what you're about to say. I know what you're about to say. It's Deadshot, isn't it? It's Deadshot.
Nope.
No, Death Wish.
Death Wish.
But a short rabbit hole for a second. Bruce Willis was on Stephen Colbert this week. Did y'all see that? No. Did y'all see him? It's hilarious. They have a moment where, I don't even want to spoil it. Go online, look for Bruce Willis, Stephen Colbert. You'll laugh your ass off. Right. It is hilarious what they do. It's absurd, but it's funny. But anyway, going back to the conversation about what I am excited about, and it's weird that you mentioned Deadshot. I'm actually kind of excited about what they're going to do with the sequel to Suicide Squad, because the only thing they can do is fix it at this point. It was so, everyone agrees that it was so terrible that it can't really be any worse. I really don't think it could be any worse than that.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
And if it is worse, it's worth watching.
I'm not even convinced that movie's even going to be made until something starts shooting. I mean, it's.
Well, we said this. We said this earlier. that the Justice League, everything was contingent on how well Justice League was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're going to start seeing now is it didn't do well. And if this DVD sales doesn't do well, I mean, this Aquaman, Aquaman just gives me the bubble guts just thinking about it. I don't even know. This might be the first comic book film I don't see in theaters. I may I may skip it.
I
agree.
mean,
I agree with that sentiment.
I think Warner Brothers very well might be taking the year off this year.
They should
regroup. I do know people got
Fire.
fired. Like studio heads did get fired over the failure of Justice League. There's been reshuffling. Who knows?
Good for
you
them.
know. People did need to get fired. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the last thing that we're going to talk about before we wrap it up is we all lost the gentleman's bet.
Well, I thought the rules were whoever's closest without going over.
Yeah, but we also said if it's astronomically above and beyond, I think that was Derreck's rule, and I agreed with that way back.
How was where were we at? I think I was 154. Where were you at?
Nate was the highest at like 161 or something.
165.
Yeah, I mean, he was nowhere near close. I mean, it blew all of us out of the water. I mean, we all were a little concerned that it was going to be on the softer side or right at what people thought. None of us predicted it would go beyond. None of us predicted that.
None of it. I'll say this: I didn't have the gumption to say 200 because I didn't want to. I didn't have the gumption.
Me neither. And I was like, "There's no way." In my brain. All right, this is how you decide whether you win or not, Nate. If someone had told you, if I had bet 205 million, would you have said, "I can see that," or would you have said, "Nah, there's no way"? I already know. See, I know your personality. Oh, there's no fucking way, dude. Yeah. So there you go. There you go. See, we don't even see everyone who listens to this podcast. You know exactly, Nate. Y'all already know. Nate would have been like, "No fucking way, dude."
That was a great Nate impression.
Black Panther ain't gonna make Guardians of the Galaxy money.
Bro, he hit us with the dude, that's what's up, bro. Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I would like to first and foremost thank our fourth co-captain, the listener. We've never thought about that before and saying that, but the truth is the fourth co-captain of the Player Way podcast are the precious few who listen to this. We want to thank you for listening every week. We encourage you, if you're out there and you do listen, be active. If you see us on Instagram, friend us on Instagram, throw us some DMs, man. Let's be a part of this Play Your Way network. The reason why we call it Play Your Way Network is because it's a network of individuals that can take these ideas, these hobbies that we have, and turn it into an ecosystem that we can really understand how to curate our life and our media.
The Player Way.
So we don't just do stuff about comics and movies and television. We also have weekly games shout out to Chris, Sean, and John, who continually do Weekly Games Wednesday, is when it comes out. Hashtag WGW.
The Player Way.
Amazing podcast on that. We have a really cool collaboration coming up where when Tomb Raider comes out, we're going to do an aspect of the film, and then they're going to do another aspect of the film. So it's kind of like a two-part episode. On Tuesday, ours will come out, and then on Wednesdays, theirs will come out, and it'll all be about Tomb Raider. So that's really cool collaboration. Thank you, Jonathan, for hitting me up and kind of plugging that, and thank you guys for being willing to kind of work with us on that. And then, of course, this past hashtag Motivation Monday, the State of Play Volume 1 just came out. So you can see myself and three other jacks of the trade playing poker and talking about building careers. A 6-part miniseries comes out on Mondays. Shout out to at 2001 Frontier. He is a huge fan of the show, and we thank you so much, dude. You are definitely doing supporting.
The Player Way.
And just a little bit about this guy listening. This is how on fire he is for our show. This dude actually took the back of his truck and actually put playlifeyourway.com on his truck. It is on Instagram, I think, isn't it, Derreck?
Yeah. That's actually my brother, and he's from another mother, from the same mother. from another time and place. But you know how we have our network of brothers, and he has he's driving a good bit of ways. He's pretty much advertising for us about 20 hours a week with as much driving as he does. And this guy, he's definitely a hell of a supporting cast. He loves your material. He hit me up this morning just to talk about how awesome the State of Play was. He said he's like, you need to get in there and corrupt and throw a Joker's wild card. I'm like, we'll see what we can cook up, right? We'll see what we can cook up.
Well, if you saw any of the trailers for Volume 2, I will probably be encouraging Nate and Derek. Volume 2 of the State of Play. Again, State of Play is more about, we have these other podcasts that are more about playing, that literally playing and playtime. But the whole aspect of playlifeyourway.com is that there's also about playing life the way you want to, so you're career-wise, and taking your career in your hands. So the State of Play series is more about career advice from people who are in their 30s, who have done the work, who have actually gone far in their careers and actually succeeded. If we allow a person to talk about it, it's because they've accomplished something. And so you may even see Derek and Nate do an episode about what's going on. And so you'll see those coming up. And the first episode of Volume 2 will be after the end of the 6 weeks are up on the State of Play. So all of this great content are coming up. Also, I want to welcome our new writer, Jay Daniel, is a new writer for playlifeyourway.com. So we will be seeing that at the Play Your Way Network. So again, with no further ado, thank you to the listener, our fourth co-captain. You are helping us curate media.
The Player Way.
And, of course, our main co-captains, Derek.
That's me. At Corrupting the System, you already know that humor and wild lifestyle is out there, but still keeping a lid and perimeter on it as best as I can.
What I say. And Nate.
That's me. Yep, that's me.
There you go.
Still,
but what
I
if?
still don't have a catchphrase, yeah.
Exactly.
I think conspiracy theory should just be your catchphrase.
Yeah, just play it after.
Well, no, now I want to correct something. Nate said he did not have a catchphrase, but that is actually not correct. If you are a longtime listener, what he's supposed to be is the Ricketts counter, and letting us know how the world is happening outside of here for people who sit in all day and play video games and TV because they listen to the Player Way and they have no reason to do anything else. You can order your groceries. You can get all of your materials through Amazon Prime, and you can get your media curated.
The Player Way.
Okay, so you're supposed to let the people who are listening know what the Ricketts outbreak is looking at outside, man.
Yeah, Nate, where you at on that?
Falling off on that, dude.
Huh?
Bitch, what?
I'm sorry.
Well, tell us how it's going.
Right. I wasn't ready for this question, to be
well,
honest.
Well, then
with you.
he'll get a report ready for next week, and I'm going to do my job by wrapping this up.
I need to do my due diligence. Yeah.
Hey, well, I always do my due diligence because I keep the records always scratching because I'm the resident podcast DJ BK, helping you curate your media.
The Player Way.
And no matter what roads you take or actions you decide to follow, just make sure you're doing it
The Player Way.
We'll see you next week.
Boom.
There you go. And that's what it is.
I believe it's day 289, Nate.
Thanks for listening to the Player Way podcast. Recorded in a single take from Los Angeles, California, Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, by Nathan Peterson, Derek Lewis, and BK Jackson.
And I'm Darren Marlar, the majestic voice of the Player Way podcast.
Our opening theme is titled Bound by Ricky Remedy, courtesy of Elysian Records. And our closing theme is titled Coconut King Diaries by Xander, spelled Zahnder. You can find this music by both Ricky Remedy and Xander, and many more tracks on SoundCloud. And remember, no matter what choices you make or paths you follow, just make sure you do it
The Player Way.
See you next week.